Hey there and welcome back to Don't Open That Door. Come along with our triumvirate of terror as we descend into darkness, hurtle into horror, and plunge into peril. If you've ever been told that you might be half psychic, you're in the right place. I'm Justin, and I would have cracked the case, but I was at a Nirvana concert.
I'm Nico, and this is why I don't like dolls.
I'm Dan, and I do, in fact, have long legs.
And we're here today to review Longlegs, but not Dan's.
And we can review mine if you want.
How these legs look, how these legs sound.
Pretty fucking good.
Any themes with these legs? What genre would you say these legs are?
Oh my gosh, shut the fuck up. So,
Romance.
Oh shit.
this one was directed by Osgood Perkins, starring Micah Monroe as Lee Harker, Blair Underwood as Agent Carter, Alicia Witt as Ruth Harker, Nicolas Cage as Longlegs, Michelle Choi Lee as Agent Browning, and Lauren Akala as a young Lee Harker. We open with Special Agent Lee Harker in the year 1990X. She displays some psychic abilities and is brought into work under the purview of Agent Carter on the Longlegs murders. You see, the Longlegs murders span several decades, and in each case, a father murders his wife and his children. Also in every case, there's a daughter that's born on the 14th. Like, the month doesn't matter, it's just they were born on the 14th of whatever month. And the murder always occurs within 6 days of the birthday, either before or after. The FBI hasn't made any headway into the case, and all they really have, aside from a pile of corpses, is a coded message left at each crime scene that is signed Longlegs. Nico, what does happen next?
So Harker swiftly and expediently begins working on the case, and she begins to make some headway, including finding that when all the murder dates are lined up, they form a satanic symbol. One night, a mysterious figure then breaks into her house. A letter is left on her desk that night, and after decoding it, she reads that if she ever tells the FBI how she managed to decode the letter or how she got it, Longlegs will kill her moms. Harker decides to follow the letter's instructions and doesn't tell the FBI anything. She does, however, locate a daughter named Carrie Ann that survived one of Longlegs' massacres, so she and Carter go to investigate.
Indeed, when I need the results of a police investigation, I always turn to Dan. Dan, what happens next?
I don't know why you do, because I never have them.
Just Justin's delusions of grandeur.
Yep. Before meeting up with Carrie Ann, Carter and Harker investigate the farm where her family was massacred. Following the instruction left on a letter that Harker decoded, the pair locate a creepy-ass doll that looks like Carrie Ann. Afterwards, they go talk to Carrie Ann, who was seemingly visited by Longlegs the day before. Back at headquarters, an autopsy is conducted on the doll, and they find that there's a strange metal ball inside of its head. At this point, it is revealed that Harker was also born on the 14th, and her mother filed a police report of a strange man approaching her when she was 9. So she goes to talk to her moms.
Indeed. And much like my mom, her mom doesn't have any recollection of what Harker's talking about. But Harker does look through her things and finds a picture marked on the 13th that's off Longlegs, and this lets the FBI go arrest the dude. So good on them. Harker then goes to interrogate him, but he proclaims, "Hail Satan!" and then kills himself. Harker and the FBI think that Harker's mom might know more than she's letting on, so an agent goes with Harker to bring in the aforementioned mom for questioning. This doesn't work though, as Harker's mom kills the FBI agent and shoots the head off of a doll that looks like Harker. This causes like a black smoke to come out of the doll's head and Harker, which then causes her to fall unconscious. Nico, I don't know what's happening at this point. Shed some light on this.
So we get a flashback at this point where it's revealed that Harker's mom has been working with Longlegs this whole time. In exchange for sparing Harker, her mom delivers these evil-ass dolls that Longlegs makes to people's houses. The dolls are satanic, so this causes the murders to happen. Harker's doll was both subconsciously guiding her via the power of Satan and also blocking her memories. With the doll now destroyed, Harker comes to her senses and heads to Carter's house because his daughter was also born on the 14th and they're celebrating her birthday today.
It's a birthday celebration, Dan. Yay, happy ending, right?
Yay! Well, unfortunately, no, because Harker is too late. By the time Harker arrives, Carter and his family are already staring at an evil doll with Harker's mom in the room. Carter kills his wife, and Harker shoots him. Harker's mom tries to kill Carter's daughter to finish her satanic ritual, but Harker also shoots her. From there, Harker attempts to shoot the evil ass doll, but finds that her bullets will not fire. The movie ends with Harker staring at the doll. The end.
All right. Well, let's get down to it, shall we? How's this movie look, Dan?
I think it looks pretty good. I really, dislike Nicolas Cage's appearance, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
He looks creepy, like really, really creepy. I mean, they definitely like put a lot of makeup on his face, which works really well for the character he's portraying. And his face looks really chunky and weird and almost like slightly Michael Jackson-y, if that makes any sense. Except chunky and not, whatever. It's really weird, but he looks really creepy. I really like just the rest of it. I like a lot of the settings as well that they're in. I think they all looks really good.
Yeah, this gives off some real vibes because it feels, I could be wrong, but it feels like they're in the Pacific Northwest.
I think they are.
And yeah, and there's mad woods and mad trees.
They mentioned
Oregon.
yeah, they mentioned Oregon.
Mm-hmm. And I love just like the setting shots. Sometimes you got some really dope shots of like a really long scenery shot, and like it's really dope. And I gotta say, this movie wants you to know that it's the 90s because they fixate once or twice. There's this big ass portrait of Bill fucking Clinton in Carter's office. And I'm just like, Jesus Christ, man. So yeah, there's that. Nico, how's this movie look?
So my favorite part about this movie is the cinematography. I love, love, love the way that Osgood Perkins frames his shots. He does such a good job of making Harker look so small and vulnerable, and the way that the camera just sits for a good long while on multiple shots where she is otherwise occupied with something and has potentially ways for people to attack her, like open doors, windows, etc. And just like sort of you were expected to like, oh, something's gonna happen, and most of the time nothing really does. I am a big, big, big fan of how this looks.
Indeed. Let's go right along to sound. Dan, kind of quiet at times, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Sometimes there's definitely a lack of audio, which I think was really cool. Other than that, I don't have too much to say. I think it sounded good.
One trick that I liked, and this is something that I've seen people online actually complain about, but I actually liked it. And I'm not just saying that to be a contrarian. So, Harker, she has a kind of flat affect throughout the whole movie.
Mm-hmm.
And people are like, oh, she's really robotic. And then when you get to the end, you realize this whole movie, she's been essentially entranced. She's under a spell. She's under the sway of fucking Satan. So yes, she is, but there's a reason for it. And I love that portrayal because we only get to see the real Harker for like 10 minutes. And that's towards the end. But prior to that, she's kind of under the sway of Satan and everything. And I liked it personally. And I like the dialogue. And oftentimes movies nowadays, I think there's a lot of sound, which I love. But this one made great use of not having a ton of music and themes going on. There's many scenes where it's just dialogue and sound effects, which I like. Nico, take it away. How's the sound go?
Yeah, I want to echo everything you said there, but one of my favorite things about the sound was the sort of, I don't know if I could call it a motif, but whenever there is some sort of, whenever Satan or Longlegs or both are exerting their influence on something, there'll be this whoosh of wind accompanying whatever Harker is doing at the time, and she can hear it, which is something that is noteworthy insofar as like she's engaging not only with the just her setting, but like she herself is almost aware that she's being dragged into something that is outside of her control. So I like the way that they very subtly set it up. And to go back to visuals really briefly, I love the sort of shadowy Baphomet-esque figures that we see for brief seconds at a time. I just think that's so fucking tight how they did that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So we're gonna start here at the end. How'd you guys like the end of this movie?
I thought it was good. I maybe halfway through the movie, I was like, I bet Carter's daughter's birthday is on the 14th. And I don't want to say, oh, I called it, but I knew something was going to happen there. But I thought that Harker was going to, save them, or at least halfway save them.
She 1/3 saved them?
Yeah.
I mean,
I guess, yeah, 33%. But I don't know. It killed me to see Carter kill his wife. Well, I guess don't see it. It technically happens off screen, but
Yeah.
I was disappointed. Not like disappointed in the movie, but I was just like, I wanted it to be saved, them to be saved. But I don't know. I feel like I would just smash the doll instead of trying to shoot it. I would like smash it. Because like she clicks the gun. I don't know if it wasn't working or out of bullets or what. But I feel like she could have just like knocked it over and won.
that also would have just totally killed the tone of the movie. Can you fucking imagine? Like, she tosses her Glock down on the ground and then just like, stop it out, stop it out, stop it out.
Yep.
So, yeah, true. Nico, what's your thoughts on the end?
I'm a big fan of the ending. I think this movie instills a lot of dread, and I think that just like I've seen this movie twice now, and both times at the ending, I just was thinking like, I have no fucking idea what's going to happen next. Like, whether or not the Bureau is going to believe her, whether or not she's going to survive, etc. Like, just it wasn't even an unsatisfying ending either in terms of like there not being a sort of like finality with the doll or anything. Like, I think there is just like she's very clearly devastated, and I don't see that going away anytime soon. So I think it packed quite a punch.
Mm-hmm.
I get why some people online aren't as satisfied with it, but personally, I think it was like a critical hit.
No, I actually quite liked the ending as well. I think it's a little open because there's that just momentary pause with Harker being fixated on the doll and like, oh man, is she gonna fall under its sway too, or whatever else? Because she says, I forget exactly what she says, but she says something like they have to run or something at the end, but she doesn't, and she's just there. So I'm curious about that. But on the whole, I remember when we watched The Mist, I was a big fan of the end. I was a fucked up ending, but I liked it. And this isn't quite that bad, but it's still pretty fucked up, and I still liked it. So maybe I'm just fucked up. But we'll see.
It kind of reminds me, I don't know if either of you have seen, I think it's the movie Seven. I think that's what it's called.
Yes. What's in the box?
Yeah. Yeah. It reminds me of that. I guess just because of the whole like crime thing, but then also like fucked up ending, kind of, whatever.
Right.
But I don't think that's a bad thing. I say that, but it's not bad because I love that movie. I love this movie. They're two different ways of going about it, but I think achieve similar results.
Following what you just said, Dan, I want to talk more about this movie. So this is kind of a wombo combo here. We've got some real detective work going on, and then we've got some real satanic work going on as well. How do you think the movie balances being a detective film and a film about Satanism?
I liked it. I thought it was pretty cool because it gave me something to not understand. And, sometimes when you watch like detective movies, a lot of times for me anyways, it's just like, okay, this is in reality, so I understand the rules and laws and stuff. And of course there's twists and turns and everything. But one thing that we've talked about, I think in the past on the podcast is I think we all do love cosmic horror and like the unknown parts of it, the fear of the unknown.
Hell yeah, brother.
That's right. So, this is not in any way cosmic horror, but just that unknown part. I think I like that being in this movie because I don't know, I didn't really know what was not real.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, she has psychic powers, and you're like, okay, well, what's the extent of this? Does she really? Like, at first, I was like, maybe she doesn't, and she got lucky or something. Or, oh, wait, there's Satan in this. How does that affect things? And like, you don't really know. But I think they don't just do a bunch of like cop outs and like, oh, this thing happened because we said it can happen, haha, kind of thing. Like it's grounded in its own rules. We just don't quite know what those rules are exactly. But I really like the blend.
Yeah, I will say this was probably the first place where I have a slight issue with the film. I would like the satanic factor to be turned up just a little bit because I think there's a part to this movie, probably, I would say. By the way, for those who haven't seen it, which why are you listening to this if you haven't? Maybe you should, maybe you shouldn't. But this movie it self-divides into 3 parts. And the second part I thought could have used a little more satanic panic, for lack of a better word. Because the first part, I get it, it's mostly detective procedural. And then the second part is also mostly detective procedural. And then I was like, I wish they just upped that satanic dial just slightly. Nico, what's your thoughts there?
So I think it really succeeds at both. I get what you're saying. I think it would have been cool if there was more overt satanic shit, but like, bro, when they're at the Camera family farm and they go into the like little attic and they uncover this doll that is shaped like Carrie Ann, and at the end of the scene, Agent Carter is hugging the doll, and the doll opens its eyes, and I audibly said, "Nope," in the theater. Like, 100% fuck that shit. So, like, while that is not overtly satanic, that was kind of enough for me to be like, okay, yeah, there's some sort of flavor of fuckery going on here beyond just regular old murder.
Indeed. And Nico, don't stop there because I want to ask you something about the flavor of fuckery. So this movie had apparently a viral marketing scheme going on here. Now, I don't know how the fuck I just never saw any of this.
Neither
Yeah,
did
I
I.
also, right?
All right, cool.
Wait, none of us saw it?
No, I definitely saw it. I mean, I was the one who
Oh.
let y'all know about it.
Oh, yeah, big up. So tell me, what was this viral marketing like?
So the big thing here, I think, is just the like cookie crumbs that we were given piece by piece of this serial killer going around with the birthday murders. There was a sort of like ARG aspect to it as well, with a website you could visit. And when it was revealed that Nick Cage was involved, everyone was like, oh, what's he going to be looking like? What is his involvement going to be? And like, what will Longlegs do? And I think just the way you described it, Dan, the way you described his character is, while I think hilarious, also somewhat accurate. It's very unnerving the way he acts and the way he just has these sort of mannerisms. It's all very just perturbed. And the way that sort of got a whole lot of people hook, line, and sinker just from the hype cycle of things. Like, I have seen people be disappointed by this film, which I understand sometimes, like, things don't live up to your expectations. But this was one of the, I think, better viral marketing campaigns that Neon or whatever firm they pirate out to do have done in a while.
Indeed. Now, I want to ask everyone, starting with you, Dan, you can't get out of this. This movie, is it scary, do you think? Is this something you'd recommend to someone who's trying to be scared? Or does it fill a different role to you?
I don't think it's scary in the traditional sense.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't like spooked out. I wasn't scared or anything. But I think, you know, I hate to fall back on this because it's crime, but, it seems like a Criminal Minds or something, Law and Order kind of, except add in Satan horror aspects of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess that's more like suspense, right? I would consider this movie horror-y, but I think the scariness comes in the suspense rather than the traditional horror scary.
All right, fair enough. I agree with you, actually. And I think there are like one or two scary moments. The doll eyes opening's one that Nico talked about, and there's one or two others as well. But for the most part, I think this is more like tense, thrillery than it is like straight out and out horror. Nico, do you disagree with that at all?
It is more so of a thriller than anything else, but I think just adding in the supernatural and the very real sense of danger that the cinematography manages to convey makes it not necessarily straight horror, but like I think firmly plants its feet in the genre for me anyway.
All right. A bit of dissension amongst the podcast. That never happens. So
Never.
let me ask this real quick, though. What was your favorite scene then, if that's the case? And I'll start with you, Dan, because you seem like you've seen some scenes.
I have seen some scenes. My favorite scene was near the end after Harker falls unconscious. She wakes back up in Longlegs' room,
Right.
which is revealed in a few minutes to be like downstairs, like in the basement of her house.
Mm-hmm.
But I loved the camera work on that. The room it's like dark and like red, washed in red light and everything. And it starts, if I remember correctly, it starts as sort of like an overhead shot of her like in bed, and she kind of like groggily wakes up. But then the camera sort of does this weird pan and tilt kind of thing, so that she's ending up like when she gets up, she's kind of still groggy and she's stumbling, but the camera is like upside down. So it's almost like she's walking on the ceiling. It's this really cool shot. Like, I don't really even know how they did it, but I just love that scene. It was really, really cool.
Mm-hmm. Nico, I know you got to have one.
That's probably also my favorite scene just because of how devastating the realization is in that moment. Because, like, the first time that Harker goes back to her mom's house in the movie, we see her trying to open this door, presumably to the basement, and she can't. And then when we get out of that scene, or sorry, when we get out of the scene that Dan just described, we realize that that is the same basement where Longlegs was making these dolls. So, like, Longlegs was in her childhood home's basement, and just, God, what a violation that is.
So what you're saying is the killer is inside the house.
Yes, 100%. And more fittingly, he himself is the man downstairs, you know? Longlegs says multiple times whenever he's talking with somebody that he's a friend of the man downstairs, that of course being Satan, but also in the setting detail here, he literally is himself the man downstairs, making him more closely connected to this sort of archetypal, like, demon sort of figure.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. For me, it would probably be towards the beginning where Harker's at her desk talking to her mom, and then she hears a noise outside, and you can see in the camera like someone outside,
Mm-hmm.
and then she runs out there, and then you can see in the camera someone inside the house. I like that scene.
Yeah, that was also fantastic.
Yeah, I thought it was particularly tense. And for my last magic trick, I want to talk about something maybe a little educational here. Themes of this movie. Can you pick out any themes this movie might be hitting on?
I don't know if it would be codified as like free will or possession, but like Harker was basically led through this movie on a string for 95% of it up until like the last 10 minutes when she has her own agency. And while she is a brilliant detective, she's also entranced. And so, like, there becomes sort of a difficult distinction to make there. Like, how much of it was her? Was any of it her? So I don't have those answers, I'll be honest with you. But I think that the idea of free will is definitely one of the themes in here.
Agreed. I think probably the only other big theme that I could take out of this is just kind of the relationship between a mother and a child, because Harker's mom is definitely not a good person, but she does what she does to save her daughter. And I don't really know how to feel about that, if I can hate her 1,000%, because yeah, she goes and she delivers this package to these people. And it's funny because they even hint at it that they say when they go over the killings, they say like almost all of them were done via a knife, but then there was like one or two where a shotgun was used, and the shotgun was her.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's her shotgun, and she's there in case something goes wrong. But it's like she did all that for her daughter, and she also wasn't 100% honest or open with her daughter, but she couldn't be. So I thought that was just interesting to think about because she's an accomplice, she's a bad person, but she's doing what she does from a place of good. So I don't know. Dan, anything you could pick apart there in the bones?
I would actually expand on what you said a little bit and kind of put it in a more general parenthood kind of theme, because
Oh, okay.
the fathers are always the ones who kill the family.
Yes.
So and of course we get close to one of the characters, Carter, and then, we watch him kill his family and we kind of see that. And then one thing I realized too is that Harker's father is not in the movie at all. There's I don't think any mention ever at all.
Right.
No.
Now, I haven't really thought this one through, so I don't really know what that means necessarily, or if there is much of a meaning to it, but that could play into sort of a fatherhood thing. And then along with what you were talking about, like the relationship between a mother and daughter. So I think sort of parenthood in general, I think is a big one.
That's true.
It's interesting hearing you both say that because I've seen interviews with both Oz Perkins and Nick Cage, and when in particular, it's interesting because like when Nick Cage got the script, he said, "Oh, this is a movie about my mother." But Osgood Perkins himself said, "Oh no, this is a movie about my mother." So I feel like that's almost baked in, and man, I really don't want to think about what kind of childhood this man must have had.
Yeah.
That is interesting to say the least. I want to go now to the what would you do? And I do think that this is kind of, and Dan, you already kind of gave your answer a little bit, but I want to put you in the shoes of Agent Harker, specifically when she wakes up and she realizes everything that's happened. What would you do if you were her?
I don't think I would do anything different
Yeah.
except like smash the doll, obviously. But like, I also fully have no idea how I would explain any of this.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of think she did the right thing of getting to Carter's house as soon as possible. The only thing is we have no way of knowing this, but if there was a way that I don't know how far Carter's house was from where she was, but if I maybe called it in or something, be like, hey, we need somebody at Carter's house now, or
True.
I don't know if somebody could have gotten there sooner, but like I said, there's no answer to that. I do think she made the right decisions at that point.
So, two things. First, I think you're both right. And for me, the major difference is, Dan, you hit on what I would do different. I would have called it in and said that the murderer is at Carter's house and we need backup ASAP. And hopefully that would have gotten someone else to go over there. But I also, knowing the whole secret with the doll would have been the first thing because she sat there for a while.
True.
Yeah.
And she just let things play out a little bit in front of her. And I would have been like, nope, blow, shoot the doll immediately. Because we saw as soon as the doll got shot, you get back your free will. And her mom even said, I'm setting you free when she did it. So that would have been the first thing I would have done immediately out of the gate. I would have shot that doll, or failing to shoot the doll, I would have bashed it against the wall or tried to break that metal ball, which I think that's where the evil energy resides or whatever else.
Yeah.
But from there, I want to take it to the critic review.
So canonically, evil is stored in the balls.
Mm-hmm.
Along with other things.
Cool.
So I will say this, dear listener, at time of review, this movie is still
Brings a whole nother meaning to bait for Satan.
Bruh. Ayo.
always some wild shit on this podcast, man. Jesus Christ. All right.
Ayo.
Anyhow, dear listener, at time of review, this movie is still in theaters. So you can expect this score to vary and change somewhat. Normally we review things that are kind of a little older, so the scores don't really change that much from when we review. Where do you guys think this sits currently on Rotten Tomatoes? Critic review, that is.
I think pretty good. I'm going to say 86.
That's
my answer.
I'm gonna say I've done one more, one less. I'm going to do two less this time. I'm going to say 84.
Well, folks, we got an honest to goodness tie here on the podcast.
Again?
This is an 85% from critics on Rotten Tomatoes.
What are the fucking odds?
I'm about to institute a fucking rule that you guys got to be at least 5% apart. All right.
I mean,
This is getting a little ridiculous, Nico. All right.
Yeah, Nico.
I'm the problem. Okay.
No, because you keep picking either one more or one less than Dan.
Yeah, so that's why I did two this time.
If only he had picked one, you would have won.
All right. It's not fair. So I will tell you the audience was not as generous. 61% from the audience. Real people didn't like this, but real people also did. Give me your thoughts, though. What do you think about this movie? And I will go first.
Okay.
So I am a sucker for a good detective story. I'm a sucker for a good horror story. You put the two of them together, and I'm a double sucker, I guess. That being... What? What is wrong with you people?
Yeah, that's my friend Justin Double Sucker Lalpatan.
Can we please...
You
just
should really
keep
get to know him. He's great.
the professionality on this podcast, man. Anyhow, for the record, I am predisposed to liking a movie like this, and I do like this movie. Just a couple consideration points. First and foremost, I think the movie is a bit slow on the pacing side of things. I know that it's kind of supposed to be a slow burn, but for me, it's just a bit too slow. I wish they had kind of cranked up the pacing a little bit and added more satanic elements, and I probably would have liked this one a lot more. As it stands, I think it's a good, decent movie, great ending, and I think it's very creative. So all in all, this one's going to get a 79 from Justin.
I echo a few of the things that Justin said. I like the combination of crime and horror. I like a lot of crime things, especially I don't really do true crime, but true crime is like the thing over the past couple of years.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of gave it an extra boost, just crime in general. But I like a lot of crime things, and I like the combination. I didn't mind the pacing quite that as much as Justin did, so I'm actually give it a little bit more. I'm gonna give it a 83.
Mm-hmm.
I love the fuck out of this movie. This is one of my favorite thrillers I've ever seen. I could have easily filled the entire length of this episode myself just gushing about this, but I am gonna give this a 93.
All right, you see, if I was fucking childish, I would have said you could have filled 40 minutes with gushing. All right, bro. But see, I ain't like that, though.
I can't even talk. Never mind. I give up.
We
Yeah,
got
exactly.
the gusher and the double sucker. Now you got to come up with one, Dan.
Nope.
All right, then. So, if we haven't driven everyone off by now, would you recommend this movie?
Wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would as well. Golden seal of approval?
I would put this in there, but I have a feeling that you're not going to.
No, I would probably not. Dan?
I abstain.
You would probably not, so there's a chance?
No, I would not. No, I would not. And Dan abstains, so therefore, it's not going to make it in. You heard it here, folks. This does get a recommend. But unfortunately, due to my actions, Justin, this is not going to get the golden seal of approval from the lads here on the podcast. That being said, we are super curious to know your thoughts. What'd you think of the movie? What'd you think of our review? And is a pizza technically a bakery? Pizza shop.
Swear to God, Justin.
Hit us up on social media. We want to know. We're on X and Instagram at DOTD Horror. We're also on Facebook. Let's don't open that door. Plus, if you like what you've heard or are ever confused, tell a friend and then give us a like so they can also like or be confused. It helps. It helps us grow. We're trying. We're trying out here. But till then, dear listener, here's what I want you to do. Take care of one another. Don't take any gifts that are like satanic dolls into your house. In fact, if someone shows up with a big ass box that you didn't order and says it's a gift, turn that shit right around.
Mm-hmm.
But as always, dear listener, don't open that door. For real this time. Bye.
They literally would have been fine if they just didn't open the
Didn't
door.
open the door.